comment called the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Mm-hmm. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say
okay.
Yes. Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
I wanted to ask comment called the president.
All right, there you go. That is your introduction to today's show. Whether you are joining me, however you are joining me today, Donald Trump welcomed Democrat Socialist Zohran Mamdani to the White House and loves the guy pretty much. And Laura Loomer is pissed off. And some people are saying Zionists everywhere are pissed off, but you have to decide on that. Big news today. Happy Friday. Welcome to the big show. We have a lot of news to cover today, so you are in for a good one. We have the meeting in the White House with Donald Trump and Zohran Mamdani, and it was very cordial. Very cordial. So we are wondering what the fallout will be. It just happened, and I'll play you multiple clips from that meeting. It will help me segue into something I've been talking about, which is that Republicans, or the right, I don't even know if parties matter anymore. We're thinking about the youth. We are thinking about the change. And there is a change going on. One of the changes is that conservatives, or people who think they're conservatives, MAGA, is because they're focused on affordability, is going to embrace government, big government, to solve all of the problems, just like the left is going to do. They're going to not be very different, I don't think. Both of them are going to look to the government to solve our affordability problems that can truly only be solved by the free market and capitalism. So I am here to defend capitalism, but we'll talk about it. There is a fight. I think I played you Nick Fuentes talking about how the right has to abandon the free market. So, which traditionally Republicans are in favor of. So I'm going to show you numerous things. We're going to talk about the affordability crisis. We're going to talk about the coming collapse, which is coming hard, I think. And we're going to talk about the future. This show is brought to you from the future. Be More Busker, yes, I keep getting this comment. And I don't know how many times I'm going to have to address it. You're in vertical mode, Be More Busker. I am in both dimensions at the same time. Because it seems like YouTube prefers the vertical mode. And I don't get that many complaints. And more people watch that video than the horizontal video, which I also prefer. So it's an experiment using technology, which allows me to do both things at the same time on the same channel. So once again, if you prefer the other way, which it seems like most people I watch are still doing exclusively, horizontal, 16:9, then go to my channel and find the other stream, which should be the one with fewer people tuned in. It seems to me that I get more people tuned in overall by doing both at the same time. And like I said, every video gets more views in the vertical format. I prefer horizontal. I prefer horizontal clips, but it seems like some people prefer it the other way. So the screen, like the thumbnail isn't right on the vertical one. It just shows my face usually. There are a number of downsides, but overall, like I said, I think I get more people tuned in overall at the same time during the live show. And I get more views overall and more views total on the vertical video, which I don't particularly care for either. And I would watch it the other way. But when you get the, Real Hampson says, look for the emoji. When you get the alerts for the show, when you get your notifications for the show, one of them will have a picture of an iPhone, like an emoji of an iPhone with apps on it and stuff next to the one. You should get two notifications at the same time. And one has a little emoji of a phone and one doesn't. So you click on the one that doesn't, you should get the right one. And hopefully if you choose the horizontal one regularly, hopefully that's the one YouTube will feed to you regularly too. But I haven't tested it yet. We're also doing shorts using advanced AI software. And so those are going out too. We are attempting to grow the channel. It is not a big channel right now. And we're using whatever techniques are possible. We're attempting to bring you the best experience you can possibly have. Okay, I care about you and your experience. So we're working on it. We're rebuilding, but we're still a small fish at this time. Thanks, Zerowitz. Happy to see you. Oh, you're on Twitch. We also have a Twitch stream going, which really is small. So we're going to see if we have what it takes. We are a very unique show with very unique perspective. We are not out of the box or in the box. We're out of the box. We're raging. So we're going to talk today about how I believe, because cost of living is the most important thing. So we're going to talk about cost of living all the time. We're going to talk about Nick Fuentes and his influence and young people, because that's the change that's coming. We're going to talk about Israel, because that seems to be an issue that is uniting the left and the right. Epstein, we're going to talk about as the news comes up, an issue that also unites the left and the right. I used to be a Democrat. I consider myself a libertarian, old school liberal. I vote Republican. But I'm interested in the change in politics. There are populists who agree with each other on both sides. And maybe it's not surprising that Donald Trump and Zohran Mamdani got along, because they're both populists who want things to be cheaper, theoretically, who care about the common man, who are both aiming toward the working class, theoretically. So we have to see what happens. Donald Trump made the case, or turned Republicans into the party of the working class. And that's how he got elected. But the working class is very upset because they're not making enough money and everything's too expensive, particularly housing and groceries and healthcare. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what the possible solutions are going to be to those problems in this podcaster's opinion, which are the solution in this podcaster's opinion is very painful, which is why you're going to hear almost nobody else talk about the solutions that I'm going to talk about, especially if they're trying to win elections and they care about who gets elected. I'll get into it on the show. You will hear my theory. So Adam Filmgrain says, have you been conversing with AI a lot today? I'm using Gemini mostly to talk about some subjects. But actually, I sometimes talk to Grok and I sometimes talk to ChatGPT, but rarely these days. I had a little help with my thumbnail today and yesterday and the day before. I'm using AI to help me generate my thumbnail, but it's just not very good. Gemini can't figure out how to make a 16:9 image. It's totally retarded. I'm like, no, make it 16:9. It's like, I can't figure out how. I'm like, that seems like the most simple, basic thing of all time. So Gemini created an image for yesterday's show that was vertical for some reason. And then I gave it to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to turn it into a horizontal thumbnail. And it did. And that's what I used for yesterday's show. This show, I just used a real picture. I tried to get, somebody said looking at my conversation with AI was funny because of how wrong it is all the time. I don't even think I have the history of I was talking to Grok about it. It just kept making an image that didn't look like Mamdani, looked like some other Arab. So it's just wrong all the time still, but I assume it'll keep getting better. I still don't pay for a subscription. I still get everything that I need for free. I haven't run into a usage limit. I did one day on ChatGPT, but I just switched to Gemini. One of my theories is that AI will suffer because people are going to be jobless and won't be able to afford their subscriptions anymore. And you'll be able to get everything you need for free, which kind of right now you basically can. So it's just going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to generate tokens. So eventually it'll all be free, which is the promise of the future. So let me play my intro and we'll talk a little bit more. See if we can entice people to watch this show. Okay, cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman, and I bring you the news, the real news. Yes, I will talk. King Ravana says, talk about BTC midnight sale. Bitcoin was down again today. I bought some today, actually. I had sold most of it, what I had, because I'm a doomer. I'm a doomer, so get used to it. I have been since I started, though, 10 years ago, and it probably prevented me from making a lot of money, like in the stock market. When I started my journey in truth, it was because I thought the economy was messed up and probably it was going to crash. But that was in 2015. And I thought it was going to crash. And I talked about buying silver before anybody was really talking about Bitcoin. Although I had been clued into Bitcoin when it was like $200, and I thought it was probably a good thing to buy. It was just challenging to buy back then. And I didn't have the wherewithal to go through the hoops to actually buy some. But I recommended other people did. I talked about silver. I talked about economic collapse. I talked about the stock market crashing, which it proceeded to go up like thousands of percent since then. So actually, I could have made a lot of money just buying stocks. And buying stocks has been a good thing to do for a long time. So I've been wrong about stocks. I've been right about Bitcoin. And I still think, and my faith is shaken a little bit I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. People are going to continue to think of it as a store of value and that it's going to be an inflation hedge forever into the future. But I'm sure enough, like I bought some today, around 82,000. Bought some, well, like I said, I don't make enough money to buy out of the money I make. We're hoping that you guys can help me out and donate to the show so I can survive and drink coffee and pay for the technology I have to use to produce this show. And I will try to do the best show possible that produces the best viral clips possible someday. And I will try to make this show work for you guys so that we can be successful and we can have money. And then we can all be happy. If you want to support the show, somebody sent me coffees yesterday and I appreciate it. I'll read those out. Go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Until we're monetized, we can't take super chats because this is harmful content until further notice. This channel is classified as harmful content. So go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. They take a very small percentage. Google takes like 30% from super chats. So it's not an efficient way to support me anyway. Or if you want to do the very best way, use Cash App and use $LTV411. And they take no fee and it goes directly into my Cash App account. And then I use that, which is where the Buy Me a Coffee money also goes. And I use that to literally buy coffee every day and cookies, which is what we run on here. I appreciate everybody who, and we run on AI basically and software. So if you need help with anything like this, I would recommend first just asking an AI LLM. But I used to do consultations to help people with cryptocurrency. I can tell you about cryptocurrency. I can tell you how to buy digital gold, which is the way I would do it. And if I was going to give financial advice, I would say, go ahead. Bitcoin's gone down pretty far now. I think it's going to go down further, probably. But I still think it's worth buying some on a regular basis along with digital gold because real gold is very expensive to buy and difficult to hold. So I got gold, Bitcoin, and uranium today. I like uranium because I believe that we're going to use a lot of nuclear power in the future. I've done well with uranium stocks. So anyway, that's my investment thesis for now. I would be short the market, but I'd rather be long something. And gold is still doing very well. So, and I think you're going to have to own things. The only people that are doing well are the people who own capital right now. So that's why I've talked about it since the beginning. The dollar is going down in value all the time. It's designed that way ever since we went off the gold standard. We are a debt-based economy. We run $2 trillion deficits. We printed a shitload of money during COVID, which created the situation we're in today as much as anything. And we've printed money ever since 1971 to pay for our wars and our extravagances. It's driven up the price of assets, benefiting those who got in early, like the boomers. And it's exacerbated the what do you call it? The wealth gap. Is that what they call it? The poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer. It's possible that could change. The reason people are embracing socialism is because workers are poor. People who don't own stocks and real estate or gold or Bitcoin don't have any money in the bank. The price of college especially went up a lot since COVID. And everybody has a lot of debt. A lot of people have a lot of debt. So we're going to talk about all that. Okay. Haddad says the difference is socialism for people versus socialism for corporations. Yeah, we're controlled by corporations right now. It's true. And Republicans favor policies that favor corporations. And the big, beautiful bill was a tax cut for corporations and rich people, which is kind of the same as giving people money, giving them tax cuts. So it's one or the other. We have a problem in this country. We sure have a problem. Let me show you guys what happened at the Mamdani press conference today. Press conference. Very, very friendly, very cordial. Here is the clip I opened the show with, which people are saying was just really funny.
I might call the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Mm-hmm. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes. Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
And I wanted to ask if I might call the president.
All right, there's that. We will... many people said Zohran Mamdani was I think a lot of the attacks on Zohran Mamdani came from Zionists and Jewish people who kept saying he was anti-Semitic. As far as I could tell, Zohran Mamdani is not anti-Semitic. He's Muslim, and a lot of people are Islamophobic, and they call him a jihadist. And he doesn't believe in the apartheid state of Israel. Basically, he's philosophically opposed to Israel being an apartheid state like it is. And that's basically it. He doesn't seem to have a problem with Jews. In fact, he just appointed a Jewish person to run the police department. And he also said something today about how he's going to do everything he can to fight anti-Semitism in New York. So I never heard him say anything. I mean, globalize the Intifada. That's kind of like the river to the sea. I don't think it's anti-Semitic. It's just a thing people say. Doesn't mean kill all the Jews. And anyway, Jewish people in Israel say the same shit. From the river to the sea. That's what they want too. And nobody calls them, well, some people do, but the mainstream is afraid to call them evil for basically saying the same shit, that they want all the land and they want to cleanse the brown people from the land, the Muslims, the Arabs. So anyway, here's a clip exemplifying that.
Please.
Mr. President, Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of
She's a very capable person,
isn't
but
that a kind of label?
you really have to ask her about that. But I don't particularly. I think I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great. When I'm meeting.
So there you go. Once again, extremely positive comments about Zohran Mamdani. He seems to have been impressed by him at their meeting, which is interesting because he believes in crazy things which are impossible. Free childcare for everybody. It's a nice idea, but it involves a great deal of redistribution of wealth. You're stealing from those that have to support those that have not, which doesn't usually work that well. And everybody will just leave. The people that have will leave if their taxes are paying for childcare, which is extremely expensive. Free buses, I don't know how crazy that is, but the buses will just be full of homeless people, probably. I mean, especially if it's cold outside, they'll probably just ride the bus all day long. So it's not going to make the buses that pleasant, I don't think. And then the government grocery stores, which are totally and completely insane, because the one thing we know about socialism is it doesn't allow for price discovery. You can't fix prices. You can't run anything that's not capitalist based, because prices are found through capitalist mechanisms. You can't just have the government say, oh, we're going to do this. But the idea is it's because there are food deserts, because where poor people live, you can't get vegetables. You can get Wingstop with your EBT card. You can get fast food, and you can get liquor from either a Korean or a Jewish store owner in a lot of cases. But you can't get fruits and veggies in poor neighborhoods. And that's what he's trying to solve. But you're not going to solve it with government-run stores. That's insane. But Trump doesn't have... I listened to, I think, the whole thing. I don't think he had one negative thing to say, which really pissed off Laura Loomer. So Elise Stefanik caters to Israel, I'm sure, for the donations, because you need money to run a campaign. So if you look at people that cater to Israel a lot, and it seems weird, it's probably because they're counting on the donations to run their campaign. Because as we've spoken about before, Jewish people, who are 2% of the population in this country, control a way disproportionate amount of the money. They make up like 40% of the richest people in America. So if you want to run as the way things have been, even like Trump did, you cater to Israel's interests, and you get money from wealthy Jewish Zionists like Miriam Adelson, who even Trump said he wasn't sure if she put America first or Israel first. And he did a lot of favors for her, including moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the Golan Heights, and it was rumored that he would let them annex the West Bank, which he hasn't let them do yet. But Elise Stefanik seems to be on the hunt for that money to run her campaign, and she launched her campaign at a Jewish conference and received some Jewish award at the same time. And that's because she attacked the colleges that had protests, where people said things like, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. And they said that that was genocidal. And then they deported a lot of them, or they're working on it. And they replaced the presidents, and they're getting involved with the whole educational system to make sure they're not learning anything that doesn't teach them what the Zionist state of Israel wants them to learn. So that was all done under Trump. And Elise Stefanik was like the attack dog who went after the presidents who allowed protests on their campus, where they said people were calling for the death of Jews, because where they didn't literally do that, but they said things like free Palestine, which they say is anti-Semitic, or from the river to the sea, which they say is genocidal. Elise Stefanik was like the main attack dog on that particular issue. So Laura Loomer, reacting to this press conference today, JD Vance says POTUS has a lot of good moments, but this is an all-timer. And that's when Trump hilariously said, go ahead and call me a fascist. I don't mind. And Laura Loomer says, why are we chumming it up with a man who campaigned with a 1993 World Trade Center bombing co-conspirator? How come you guys didn't call him out for his support of Islamic terrorism? We are losing our country to an Islamic takeover. Nobody wants to address this seriously. That's what they say. We haven't lost this country to Jewish interests. We're losing this country to Islamic interests. Go ahead and see if you can prove that one. Laura Loomer says, wild to allow a jihadist communist to stand behind the president's desk in the Oval Office. Sad to see. So that's the common refrain, is that we're being taken over by Islamists, which I don't believe. In some places, though. In Dearborn, Michigan, I have seen some videos. It does look a little scary for people who show up at like gatherings of people there. In those locations, it does kind of seem like they are kind of taking over Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Somali community and everything. I'm not saying it is a problem in certain localities, but they don't have the means to control our government the way some other people do. So this is an interesting comment, Devotee777, who says this is another thing people used against him. Legalization of prostitution, cooked. I'm a libertarian and I believe in the free market, and people currently legally sell their time. It's called escort services. Street prostitution seems to be an issue, and I think that maybe should be cracked down upon. But we have legal prostitution in Nevada at regulated places, and it doesn't seem to create any of the problems that people claim. We don't want trafficking. We don't want pimps abusing their people that they're trafficking. We don't like Epstein. However, women sell their time and then they consent to something, and that's called being an escort. And that's actually, I think, legal in 50 states already. So I don't think we should be punishing women for engaging in prostitution when it's a job, basically, and people can choose to do it. But that's a very libertarian position. I also believe like drugs should kind of be legal in a lot of ways, although fentanyl is a serious problem. And I'm kind of conflicted because of what kind of drugs we have today. And cannabis, I believe, made me insane, made me psychotic. So I understand why there is some concern about cannabis. And I watched Tucker Carlson's episode about it, about how bad it is for you. So I'm thinking about it. But alcohol is legal. And even the guy that came on Tucker to say how bad cannabis was said that alcohol is worse if you listen to it. So, and alcohol has been legal for a long time, and it's definitely a lot more dangerous to drive a vehicle. It seems like it's a lot more dangerous getting drunk than it is getting high, in the short term at least. Now, what it does to your brain and motivation, everything else to young people and all that, I think that's up for debate, but it should still probably be legal because it's not it's not that harmful. It seems like there are some health benefits too to cannabinoids. Here's another clip. Go ahead and get rid of that one. Lots of people are happy about it. Well, some people who don't like Israel are happy about it.
Communists, can you describe why you feel that way? And also, will you do anything to stop him from arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu if he visits New York?
Well, we didn't discuss your second part of the question, and on your first part, I mean, he's got views that are a little out there, but who knows? I mean, we're gonna see what works, or he's gonna change also. We all change. I changed a lot from when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even the first term. And I can tell you, some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on some things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to be. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually, and some very liberal people. He won't surprise them because they already like him.
And, Mr. Mamdani,
Wow.
you described
That's such a
himself
strong
as
endorsement.
and also
It's actually more than, it's kind of over the top. He's going to surprise a lot of conservatives. Wow. Such a strong endorsement. Such an interesting pivot. Democrats are happy about it, like Brian Krasenstein. He says, I have nothing bad to say about this meeting between Trump and Mamdani. This is how politics should be. Well done. Now let's hope the friendliness between the two continues. I'll play that clip.
Will he bring it back greater than ever before, which is, I guarantee, that's his wish. I think he wants to make it greater than ever before. And if he can, we'll be out there cheering. I'll be cheering for him. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Lots of touching, and so very interesting. I have even more clips, but I think that's enough. Donald Trump is an interesting president. A lot of Zionists, like, okay, I was going to lead with this story today. I was going to lead with this in the headline, which is that Mike Huckabee met with Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard in secret. This story is just breaking, which is that Mike Huckabee met with convicted Israeli spy, Israeli-American spy, Jonathan Pollard, in secret on U.S. government property at the embassy in Jerusalem, and didn't tell anybody about it, and the CIA is pissed off about it, basically. And Mike Huckabee has said a lot of very, what I consider terrible things, basically ethnic cleansing type stuff, like about the West Bank, about Gaza, about what the Jews in Israel are entitled to because of the Bible. Mike Huckabee, as far as Israel, as far as Palestinians, is not a very nice guy. So, and apparently he helped free Jonathan Pollard. So I will introduce that story. And Jonathan Pollard had a lot of bad things to say about Trump, which is that Trump is too influenced by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. So actually, many on the right wing of in Israel are not that happy about Trump selling advanced weapons to Saudi Arabia, which just happened, and having such a close relationship with Arab states. So Trump is kind of complicated. He's not 100% Israel first. Although, when it comes down to it, he kind of is, but he also engages with these other countries, which have a lot of money. They gave him a free plane and stuff, and they do business with his family, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and he's awfully chummy with like dictators, like Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, who he just had in the White House. So let me play you Jonathan Pollard talking about his meeting. I haven't reviewed this clip yet. I am the Buddha. Dude, I don't want to address this 100 times every show. I am also landscape right now on this channel. Just click on my channel and go to the stream with fewer viewers right now. Like the stream, and maybe the algorithm will feed you the landscape version, which I'm looking at right now. And actually, I can show comments too. Just go there right now and comment, and I'll tell you you're in the right place. All these people here you see in the chat, a few of them at least, are watching the landscape version. They're very happy. I'd like to just do landscape, but I don't. It just seems like YouTube likes this vertical thing. So what am I going to do? All right, let me play this Jonathan Pollard thing. So here he is talking about what happened.
You met with Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Why did you meet with him?
I had reached out to him through my lawyers for a meeting. Why? It was a very simple personal reason. On the one hand, I wanted to thank him as honestly as I could for everything that he had done on my behalf when I was in prison. And on the other hand, I wanted to extend my heartfelt appreciation for his kindness and his consideration towards my wife, Esther, Alea Shalom. He really was a gentleman towards her, and he tried to help her as much as he could. That basically was my reason for wanting to see him. Now, were other things discussed? There were pleasantries discussed, but those were the only matters of substance that transpired between us. Now, when I was contacted bolt out of the blue by the New York Times, I was somewhat surprised because they're a newspaper that I don't exactly like, and never in my wildest dreams would consider giving an interview. But something told me it was important that I do talk to them. And after discussing, my possible run for the Knesset, the subject of the interview became very clear, and that was the Huckabee meeting. Now, it was very clear to me, Daniel, that there was somebody in the embassy who had contacted a superior, perhaps, back in Washington, and that person had contacted the New York Times. It was clear that whoever contacted or made this meeting, that made their superior in Washington aware of the meeting, didn't know the substance of the meeting. They were not privy to the meeting. They weren't present, and they really hadn't heard anything about it, except for the fact that the meeting had been held. It was clear to me also at the time of the interview that the meeting was going to be used as a weapon against the ambassador, perhaps to have him recalled.
You're actually
And I
seeing
got
that
this
on,
from the
on
substance
Twitter right now.
of the interview. Right. It's quite clear. In my guess, as far as who may have been involved in this matter, I think is centered on the CIA station at the embassy.
I would guess
They
that the
really
CIA,
haven't been
I would
replaced.
guess that the CIA station probably hates you.
Yeah. And when they became aware of it, I think they organized this hit on the ambassador. You have to understand, I have a lot of disagreements with President Trump, but there's one thing that we're both in agreement on, and that is that the CIA needs to be purged completely from top to bottom, from leftist progressive holdovers going back to the Obama administration, certainly the Biden administration. I don't trust the CIA. They're
All
not
right, this is
friends of
boring.
Israel.
People are tuning out. It's boring. Anyway, people on the right wing in Israel like him. People in the CIA apparently leaked it to the New York Times or whatever that he met with Huckabee. That's what's being reported, because they might actually not be friendly with Israel and they want to create some turmoil there. So that's what people are saying. But he was a spy. He sold secrets to the Israeli government. He was put in prison for 35 years and then paroled. Mike Huckabee helped him get paroled, and Huckabee wanted to meet with him. And I guess he's thinking about running for office in Israel. Apparently in Israel, the right wing likes him. So he is a convicted spy. So that's the story. Here's him apparently celebrating blackmailing the United States with nuclear weapons. So I'll play that.
Admit this. We are now feeding our enemy. I mean, this has never happened in history before. And you have to ask why. And I don't want to hear this business that it's consistent with Jewish morality. It isn't. Anybody saying that doesn't know anything about Jewish morality at all. Oh, let me bring you back to October 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, when Henry Kissinger instituted an arms embargo against us. And what happened? What happened was an A4 Skyhawk was parked at Tel Nof Air Base with some interesting weapons under its wings. And we told the Americans, take your eye in the sky and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway. And the next day, the airlift started to Israel, the arms air.
So in other words, we threatened
We threatened to use unconventional weapons. I'll leave it at that. And so he said, is this what you want us to threaten now? I said, absolutely, except this time I want us to go forward with it if necessary. If they think we're bluffing, we go forward with it. Look, as far as I'm concerned, when we are faced with an existential threat, we have the right to use any and all weapons in our disposal to eliminate that existential threat. A lot of people don't know anything about nuclear weapons at all, what they are, how they can be used. And I'm tired of using euphemisms. I'm tired of saying, well, we have something, in the basement, but we won't be the first to introduce nuclear weapons in the Middle East. It's enough already.
Okay. So apparently, that's him saying that in 1973, they threatened to use nuclear weapons to blackmail the United States. I actually have another clip that they threatened to nuke Iran in order to get us to bomb Iran for them. So I'll find that clip. I think right here. So this is what John Kirikow is saying, who is former CIA. He's saying that Israel actually threatened to nuke Iran if we didn't get involved. So once again, nuclear blackmail.
The reason, though, I'm told, that Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran was that the Israelis said for the first time, if you don't bomb Iran to take out these deep bunkers, we're going to use nuclear weapons. And they had never threatened that before. And so Trump said, bombing Iran might actually save us from the start of World War III if it keeps the Israelis from using nuclear weapons.
So according to your source, the Israelis told the president of the United States that if he did not use the United States military power to bomb the nuclear facilities in Iran, Israel, acting on its own, would use nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Do you see why there's a problem with that statement, John?
Yeah.
Because they've never admitted that they've had them.
That's right.
So you're telling me that they just admitted to the president of the United States that they have nuclear weapons and we still do not have them in the IAEA treaty.
I mean, if Israeli nuclear whistleblowers are to be believed. Yeah, they've had them. They started working on them in the 50s. They got them around the late 60s or the early 70s. Look at Mordechai Vanunu.
Mhm.
You know, he wasn't charged for treason for nothing.
That's a guy they hid in Rome with the honeypot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 86.
So actually, Israel stole the nuclear weapons technology from the United States to build their own nuclear arsenal, apparently. So if that story's true, it's pretty scary. But I don't put it past them. So I think that's the whole story about. I think that's enough of the story about. Oh, here's more about Mike Huckabee. Let's see if this clip is interesting.
Governor Huckabee joins the recent calls to act in benefit of Jonathan Pollard, who has spent more than 25 years in U.S. prison for spying for Israel.
He pled guilty. He served an extraordinary length of time for the crime that he was convicted of, to which he pled guilty. And it would seem to now be, I think, a matter of goodwill and a good faith gesture for the president to give clemency and release him.
Governor Huckabee joins the recent calls to act in benefit of Jonathan.
All right. Okay, we have to draw people into this stream. We're losing people. What are we going to talk about? We want to talk about Israel here. And then we're going to talk about cost of living and housing. We're going to talk about no, I don't care about that today. We'll talk a little bit about Nick too. We're going to talk about illegals in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to get you guys what you want to hear. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. All right. This is an interesting. Oh, that's way too long. Okay. I think I had another clip of that. Well, we have Steve Bannon. Who says we're losing, who used to be a big Israel supporter, where he said 1 year ago, he said, Israel is a strategic partner. The biggest ally to Israel are evangelical Christians, MAGA, and traditional Catholics. We will always have your back. And this is what he's saying now.
What do you think about foreign aid to Israel? Is it a strategic partnership?
Israel is a partner of the United States, but the people in Israel got to understand something. The number one enemy to the people in Israel are American Jews that do not support Israel and do not support MAGA. Okay, MAGA and the evangelical Christians and the traditional Catholics in this country have Israel's back. They have the Jews' back. The biggest single enemy to the Jewish people are not the Islamic supremacists. The biggest enemy you have is inside the wire. Progressive Jewish billionaires that are funding all this stuff. They are the number one enemy, and the people in Israel have to set that right, because MAGA has your back, traditional Catholics have your back, and evangelical Christians have your back. We will always have the back of Israel. But I got to tell you, you have an enemy inside the wire.
How do we explain this to conservatives?
How do you see the future of NATO and?
So that's Steve Bannon.
What do you think
of Israel? I have. Do I have the clip here? This is an interesting clip. This is an interesting clip from a former Obama speechwriter. She said that teaching people about the Holocaust is bad or backfired because now people see Israel doing the same thing to Palestinians, and they think that's bad too. because we taught people that the Holocaust were bad. Here she is saying that Jews were forced to control Hollywood and banking, basically. Listen to this.
Suddenly it's like Jews control Hollywood, right? Because like you made us do that. I don't, it's like, I guess I would just gently push back on the idea that Jews have power in America. I think we have tremendous status. I think we have, we've certainly achieved like tremendous professional and cultural achievement. We certainly have achieved, wealth and like professional success. But I don't necessarily know, we're 2% of the population. So if the majority turned against us, I'm not totally sure what we would do, right? Like I'm just thinking about like power in very kind of practical ways. We definitely have power in Israel, like as a state, right? But I don't necessarily think Israel is like the most powerful state in the world or all powerful. I think it's often kind of deemed the source of all the world's problems and kind of, whereas like this is a state the size of New Jersey. It's not. I know we think it's very important. I certainly think it's important in the scheme of the world's thing. Like I would probably focus more on like China, Russia, Iran. I think the obsession with Israel is it's a reflection of very old historical ideas about Jews. But I think I certainly think you're right. Like what you're alluding to with like, there is this trend in history to say there is this disgusting thing, and Jews, you have to do this disgusting thing because you can't do anything else. We're not going to let you do anything else. You're going to do this disgusting thing. And then when you do it, we're going to call you disgusting. So, okay, you can't, centuries ago, Jews were not allowed to be in guilds. They were barred from many professions, but they were allowed to do money lending, which was considered disgusting. And so they did. And people said you were disgusting money lenders, and they developed skills in finance. And so they became quite accomplished in finance and banking. And we were kind of said like, oh, you guys are disproportionate in finance and banking, right? Because you made us, right? Decades ago in America, Jews were pushed out of the more kind of classy art forms of like theater and publishing and told, you guys, there's vaudeville, which is kind of like, crass down market. Like that's the only thing Jews can do. So they're like, okay, I guess we'll do that. And it's like, oh, you're disgusting. But then they developed into Hollywood. And suddenly it's like Jews control Hollywood, right? Because like you made us do that. I don't, it's like there is something to it that's a little bit cruel. This idea that like, you've succeeded in this thing that we forced you into, and now we are going to condemn you for that. And that I just feel like, yikes.
For sure.
But look, we are not a powerless people, right? We have power in Israel. We have nuclear weapons and an army.
There you go. So it's because they were forced, but it's kind of, I don't deny that. It's true that Jewish people got into banking because it was like not allowed for other people, because Muslims and Christians both forbade usury. So they weren't allowed to lend money. And actually, I think loaning money for interest is actually an important thing. But if you're going to say that, here's what I would say. So if you're going to say that Jews control the banks and Jews control Hollywood, and that's because they were forced to, then it shouldn't also be anti-Semitic for people to say Jews control Hollywood and Jews control bank or disproportionate in banking. But it is considered anti-Semitic to say that. So if Jews are allowed to say that, then other people should also be allowed to point that out. Just like she did. I have Megyn Kelly in a fight with Mark Levin, who claims he never called her anti-Semitic, but I guess she posted a clip where he did. I'll play that.
I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this Jew hatred from the Marxists, the Islamists, the neo-Nazis, the grifters, I don't know where they're pulling us and pushing us. What do they want to do with American Jews? What do they want to do? Where are they taking this country? They're destroying it. Carlson, Owens, Kelly, Bannon, the rest of them, and others. I don't know where this is going. I don't know where there's Jew hatred from the Marxists, the Islamists.
There you go. So that's a clip of him saying that it's Jew hatred coming from Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly thinks she's going to die because of what he's saying. These women, in particular, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Megyn Kelly, seem to be especially concerned about their safety from what people say about them. Nick Fuentes, on the other hand, he's getting condemned by Chuck Schumer. They're actually trying to pass a resolution to disavow Fuentes, which is making him more popular. Here he is talking about Nick.
Well, 3 days ago, the President of the United States declined to condemn Nick Fuentes' hateful views and defended Tucker Carlson's decision to give Fuentes a platform. The President was asked about his thoughts on the interview. He declined to condemn Nick Fuentes. That is disgusting. For Donald Trump to excuse and protect the spread of Nick Fuentes' ideology confirms what many of us have long said. White supremacy and anti-Semitism are taking deep roots, unfortunately, within the Republican Party. Just as we saw from the leaked texts of young Republicans, just as we saw from text messages of administration officials, the Nick Fuentes saga on the right reveals that anti-Semitism and white supremacy have been growing with disturbing currency within the right wing and within the right wing of the Republican Party. But I know this is not true of everyone on the Republican side, especially not for many Republicans in this chamber. Therefore, I will soon lead a resolution here in the Senate rejecting Nick Fuentes and his white supremacist views, condemning Carlson's platforming of hate, and condemning anti-Semitism and white supremacy wherever and whenever it occurs. In the coming days, I will work to grow support for my resolution so the Senate can take a clear stand against hatred and anti-Semitism. I hope my Republican colleagues will join me in this effort and co-sponsor this resolution. Calling out anti-Semitism should not be a partisan issue. In fact, when we refuse to condemn anti-Semitism, when we stay silent and fail to reject anti-Semitic rhetoric, when we normalize hateful figures spewing disgusting anti-Semitism, that is when anti-Semitism spreads throughout society like a poisonous wildfire. Americans don't want to see that happen, so my resolution will give every senator, every single senator, a chance to make an important stand against hatred. The country must see us unite and fight this awful form of bigotry.
There you go. So Fuentes is getting bigger and bigger. His views on Rumble, the one platform where he's allowed, where they don't even like him and won't run ads when you click on his show, he gets 50,000 people regularly tuned in at a time. Somebody was posting this to say that the Daily Wire, which might have a deal with YouTube, is allowed on all the platforms, including podcast platforms, which Nick is also banned from. And they have this image shows very few people tuned in. Not as few as this show, particularly today. We got to do something about that. But the numbers are not looking good for traditional conservative Inc., which is backed by big money. Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, with 234, 357, and 698 people tuned in. Nick Fuentes has infiltrated the White House. This is some people talking about that.
Now we have this moment where right-wing anti-Semitism, which seemed for a long time to be quite dormant or at least relegated to the fringes, is now entering the conversation in a big way, particularly since Tucker Carlson brought Nick Fuentes on his show. And Nick Fuentes is talking about starting think tanks. He has the allegiance, apparently, of people who are working in congressional offices. I've heard stories of, him being played in the background, even in the executive branch in the White House. And I'm wondering, what do you make of this sudden emergence of this really virulent anti-Semitism on the right?
Well, of course, as we know, it's been around for a long time. And in fact, even when Goldwater made that famous appearance at the Garden, he made a previous one in New York the year before, there was a contingent on the far right that was making the same charge that about the Jew Goldwater. And it was much more easily contained back then, partly because they had fewer channels, fewer outlets for expressing those opinions. And there was more of an organized mainstream media that was not going to allow those voices to be heard. And the conservative media that Buckley dominated in some ways mirrored the mainstream media. Great historian of conservatism, the Republican Party guy named Jeff Tabaservice told me when I was writing a story, I think for Esquire magazine. And Jeff was also the main first researcher on the Buckley book. He was a grad student then. He said, Buckley's idea of an alternative media was his own version of the New York Times. In other words, whether it would be as sophisticated and as well researched, as well reported, as taken as seriously. It's that kind of seriousness that seems gone now. That feels generational to me. And I know a number of people are saying within the movement, this is the old guard against the new guard. And it's the new guard that has taken up more of these memes and tropes that come out of that murkier side of the movement. And I'm reminded, I'm sure you're well aware of it too, that in the first days of Trumpism, there was talk about that, about the alt-right and Richard Spencer and these others who were either flirting with or openly embracing anti-Semitism and real extremism, and that seemed to go away.
Yeah.
Right? Then you have the Freudian return of the repressed, and it's back here again.
There you go. So he said that he was happy when mainstream media was able to get shut down anybody who was critical in the past. And now that it's because there are more platforms that's allowed to get out there. So I also wonder about, they say it's these old tropes, but where do these young people learn these old tropes? Is it because they're students of history and they just decided one day to bring up the old tropes, or is it because of something they observed? Because we know that they're not great students. We know they're still being taught about the Holocaust in school. So where are they learning what they always call this historical anti-Semitism that's propping up? Where is it coming from? Is it because of their observations? Or is it because really they're just bringing up old tropes out of nowhere? But it's over, basically. I mean, they've lost. All the polls say. People under 50 even, more than 50% don't support Israel. Ted Cruz says this person at this TPUSA event asked a viciously anti-Semitic question. Listen to this, and then listen to the reason he said it was so anti-Semitic, or imagine.
This poison is spreading. There are pastors who love Israel who think all is fine, and my message to them is go and talk to the teenagers in your congregation. Go and talk to the 20-somethings in your congregation, because they're picking up their phone and they're watching TikTok and they're watching Instagram and they're hearing this message being driven, and it is resonating. And if you want an illustration of this, several weeks ago, J.D. Vance was down at Ole Miss at a Turning Point gathering, and one kid got up, asked this viciously anti-Semitic question. The most horrifying thing to me is what happened in the second later, which is the crowd erupted in applause. Not everybody. My guess is 20 to 30% of the kids there were applauding the viciously anti-Semitic question. A week or two later, there was another event with Eric and Laura Trump at Auburn University. A kid got up and said, I can do even better, and asked such an anti-Semitic question. It was filled with lies. Every word of the question was a lie, including and, but, and thee. And again, instantaneously, the reaction was the same. 20 to 30% of the kids began cheering. Now, here's the warning sign to hear. This was not a gathering at Berkeley. This was not a gathering at Yale. This was at Ole Miss and Auburn. These are a bunch of big old frat guys that are just looking to make a friend on Saturday night, who have heard the message. We are such a team. We're so polarized. We're so bifurcated that what worries me is young people that get the message, oh, our team, we hate Israel. That is dangerous.
There you go. So the viciously anti-Semitic question was, if Donald Trump is getting so much money from a Zionist, basically from Miriam Adelson and other Jewish interests, but most of his money came from Miriam Adelson. Like, how can you say he's not controlled by Jewish money? And then the thing he got applause about is this.
Israel has not been a great ally to the U.S. all the way since 1960 when they bombed the USS Liberty. Israel is a nation where Christians are constantly under attack in both Gaza and the West Bank. We talk about America first and defending Christians, but how can we do this if we align ourselves with a nation that does not do that itself? Israel.
Yeah, that's what they cheered over. They cheered over a true historical event, the bombing of the USS Liberty, and then people applauded. And that was all lies, according to Ted Cruz, and that the entire question was viciously anti-Semitic. He actually was pretty proper in his delivery and didn't say anything that was a lie. But according to Ted Cruz, the whole thing was viciously anti-Semitic. And when he said the most vicious anti-Semitic lie, people applauded. Well, the vicious anti-Semitic lie was the bombing of the USS Liberty, which is actually a true thing. So that's how he's gaslighting people, and that's what they do. Well, that's what people like Ted Cruz do. Okay, I think that's everything on Israel today. I think. Let's see if I have anything else. Oh yeah, I want to play this clip from Kirk Cameron on biblical interpretations, where you say you have to bless Israel. Kirk Cameron has a different impression now.
We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel. We are commanded to support Israel.
I know the verse that Tucker Carlson's talking about in Genesis actually doesn't say Israel. It says that those who bless you, Abraham, this was before Israel, will be blessed by God, and those who curse you, Abraham, will be cursed by God. Jesus demystifies who the children of Abraham actually are, and Paul absolutely clarifies it. For not all who are born into the nation of Israel are truly members of God's people. Well, that sounds like it contradicts what Ted Cruz just said. Being descendants of Abraham doesn't make them truly Abraham's children. It sounds like he's saying not all of Israel is really Israel just because they're Jewish. Israel didn't have a nation or a land to call their own for almost 2,000 years since the destruction of the temple in the year 70 AD. The nation of Israel was recreated through some political operatives after World War II. So in that almost 2,000 year period, what did it even mean to bless Israel or to curse Israel? There was no Israel per se. I think the scripture makes it clear that it's about whether you're blessing or cursing the true children of Abraham, those who believe the promises of the gospel.
And the Pope, the American Pope, says actually God's chosen people are Christians. So, I never got from the Bible that you have to bless Israel. And Tucker Carlson says that's a blasphemy. All right, now we're going to talk about affordability and what is being done about it and how all of the solutions for it involve more government, as far as I can tell. We'll introduce you to this guy who's supposed to be the new Nick Fuentes, who loves Israel, Brylan Hollyhand, who seems to have some kind of money and influence behind him and seems to be kind of like a homo. He's a Southerner. But this is what they're all saying now. And Tucker Carlson has been saying for a long time too, without any solutions. They're all saying the same thing. We have to talk about making things more affordable. We have to talk about making things more affordable. We have to tell people that we're the party that's going to make things more affordable. So here's the pitch.
We have to make home ownership affordable again. I know that doesn't fit well on a hat or a bumper sticker, but trust me, affordability is the number one issue going into the midterms this time next year. I sit in classes every single day with college students. Gen Z's number one issue is the fact that they can't afford rent on their apartment right now. They can't afford groceries or gas to fill up their tank, much less the scary thought that they need to buy a home once they graduate and somehow start a family. The American dream seems unattainable. It's in no way, shape, or form dead, but it has to become more real and authentic to Gen Z today. How do we do that? We make America affordable. We actually carry out the campaign promises and very simply win over the same people group that we won in 24. How did we have a landslide? We went over disenfranchised Democrats, we went over independents, and we went over Gen Z. That same resounding message of hope, of prosperity, of making the American dream affordable and attainable again is how we went over those same people. Listen, everybody worked their butt off to get Trump in the Oval Office last year. Amazing, right? But he's only going to have 2 years of accomplishments if Gen Z doesn't wake up and we all work to get the midterms won for the Republican Party. It will just be 2 years in history because the second Democrats get the majority, everything stops and impeachment starts. American taxpayer money will be wasted on investigations into collusion and fake dossiers instead of actual work to make America affordable again. That needs to be our number one focus going into the midterms.
Okay, there you go. So that's what he says. That's that little kid. He's like 18 years old. He seems to be like a theater kid. And he says, we have to tell people that we're the party that's going to make things more affordable without proposing any solutions. So that's the plan, basically. But I've looked into the solutions, so I'm going to go over those too. And the solutions are just a mirror image of what Democrats want to propose for the most part. So we're going to talk about what the real solution is to the affordability crisis. But they are going to talk about it. And yes, Donald Trump got elected because he talked about it. But he also convinced people that tariffs are paid by other countries and that they wouldn't raise prices. And that's just fake news. Tariffs raise prices. Otherwise, he wouldn't be cutting tariffs to lower prices. I got a comment on my video that said Trump was to blame as much as Biden for inflation. And the guy was like, oh, tariffs don't raise prices. That's what he said. I was like, okay, fine. Like, that's what Trump said. But then he's cutting tariffs to lower prices. So which one is it, sir? If tariffs don't raise prices, then why would cutting tariffs lower prices, sir? So people are reflexively defensive of Donald Trump, and it makes me insane. But tariffs raise prices. We have inflation, probably because of tariffs, to a large extent, because we import a bunch of stuff. Cars have gone up because of tariffs. Coffee has gone up because of tariffs. Aluminum, huge tariffs. Things that are used in production for corporations, And people blame Trump, regardless of what anybody thinks. Biden was there when inflation was bad, but this is what people think about prices going up.
85% of Americans say that they are up. 60% say that they are up a lot. I had that nice little asterisk at the bottom. Just 10% of voters say that grocery prices are down versus a year ago. Look, you can get 10% of Americans who agree on anything. 10% of Americans believe we faked the moon landing, for goodness sake. That's how low of a number this is. And of course, President Trump always, if it's not going his way, he might try and pass the buck back to the Joe Biden administration. Well, the American people, again, ain't buying it, because take a look here. All right, more responsible for the current economy. Look at this. More than 3 in 5 voters say Donald Trump is more responsible, 62%, compared to just 32% who say Joe Biden.
There you go. That's what people think. So no matter what Trump says, was that we're living in Joe Biden's economy. People don't believe it. And I explained that we're living in the aftermath of one of the biggest bailouts in the history of mankind during COVID, when we literally printed trillions of dollars and just gave it to people, and there was massive fraud. People got the PPP loans that were forgiven. People were buying Rolls Royces, Bentleys, houses. It bailed out rich people, even more than poor people, but they got money too, which they bought crypto with and they bought stocks with. And things went up and people bought houses. When prices could have gone down and would have gone down without government intervention, we chose instead to bail everybody out, even people who weren't necessarily in need of it. Businesses that were making money that basically just functioned on the internet were still allowed to get PPP forgivable loans. And that was during the Trump administration. So I see the person who said, "You fell off, dude." And I understand. Not everybody's going to like what I have to say about it, but I'm not denominational. I'm not religiously tied to Donald Trump or Republicans, for that matter, if they don't offer solutions. Donald Trump won because he said prices were going to go down, but prices didn't go down. They went down on gas, which he can't really control anyway. I mean, we might be drilling more, but that's controlled by forces generally beyond a president's control. Oil prices are way down right now. It's because we're going into a recession, because we've had massive layoffs, and because the economy is slowing down. So oil prices go down when we go into a recession, which is probably what's happening. The only part of the economy that's driving growth is AI, which is being trained to replace us. They're going to talk about it. That's what I hear. They're going to talk about it. They're going to lower tariffs on some things. Maybe the price of coffee will go down a little bit, but it's not going to go down lower than it was during Biden. And neither is hardly anything else, because we're running $2 trillion deficits right now. Prices go up because of government spending. We're still running the deficits we were running during COVID. We never stopped. Elon Musk came in and Doge tried to save money, and Trump kicked him out because nobody really wants to stop government spending, which drives inflation. Nobody wants to stop it. Nobody wants to stop all the spending on our military, because it provides jobs in their district. And nobody actually in politics wants the price of houses to go down, which is what would have to happen for the price of houses to get cheaper. They propose one solution, which is realistic. They propose one solution. It's true, Republicans, and it is a Republican ideal to lower the price of housing, which is to cut regulation so people can build more houses. And apparently that's working in places like Austin, Texas, where I lived for a while, in a brand new building. And they were building a brand new building next to me, and they were building a brand new building next to that. And they were probably just going to keep building apartment buildings as far as they could to soak up all the demand. And the price of rent actually went down in Texas, and the price of houses is still kind of affordable around Austin, Texas. That's the one solution they're proposing. The other thing that they're proposing is getting rid of all the illegal immigrants. And what Donald Trump isn't talking about is stopping importing foreigners to take our jobs with the H-1B visa program. So those are the ways that they are actually proposing that would reduce cost. Cut regulations, allow people to build. Get rid of illegal immigrants so that people can make more money. Because if we get rid of foreign labor, then especially illegal labor, then the places that are paying for illegal labor because it's cheaper will have to pay more money so that Americans will do those jobs. And you're seeing it in North Carolina, where you have empty construction sites. In Charlotte, North Carolina, where ICE showed up, or actually, I think it's actually Border Patrol. It's actually not even ICE. It's the other guys, where there's an empty construction site to work. Because illegal immigrants are afraid to show up to work.
Quiero compartir mi silla contigo.
Empty construction site. I have somebody else commenting on it, I believe. Maybe I don't have that clip. But those things can help make things more affordable. Here's what Benny Johnson is proposing. He started an initiative, Make Housing Great Again. So I'm going to show you their proposals because I was very interested. Lots of people want to talk about solving problems. Donald Trump talked about bringing prices down and people believed him. But the price and prices haven't come down. Okay, that's all you can say. Prices haven't come down, and everybody knows it. Here is what Benny Johnson is saying he's going to do. In partnership with the American First Policy Institute, we will be advancing real policy solutions to reverse the trend keeping young Americans from achieving the American dream. The average first-time home buyer is now 40. Far too late to start a family and build a stable future. We need young people marrying, starting families, and putting down roots. And that starts with a culture of home ownership. The American dream is at stake, and we're committed to delivering for the next generation. So here is the article. And I'll just tell you what they're proposing. And I'll tell you how it's different from how I'm proposing housing prices need to go down. messaging war. Okay, here we go. Among those proposals is a push to eliminate capital gains tax on first home sales as long as they reinvest in another home within the following 5 years. This proposal is aimed at mirroring the spirit of President Donald Trump's opportunity zones, aimed at accelerating wealth and economic development for low-income communities. Okay, that's fine. It's a tax break, but that's a government incentive. Tax breaks are also inflationary. So yeah, we don't like taxes, but it's money the government would have gotten otherwise, and it leads to larger deficits. So a tax break doesn't bring down the price of houses. It's not crazy, but it doesn't bring down the price of houses. It's a way houses can keep the same price and people can pay for them through government subsidies. Another proposal includes a push for the creation of home savings accounts, similar to a health savings account that allows individuals to contribute pre-tax dollars to pay for their healthcare needs. Once again, it's just a tax break. It doesn't down the price of houses. Oh, my phone failed. There we go. It's back. And then they have a plan to reduce regulations and increase incentives across states and localities that have restricted the development of new housing supply. One example they point to is green building standards, which the initiative says bloats costs for builders. By getting rid of these regulations, they say that it will dramatically reduce the cost for builders, who will in turn be able to increase supply. Yes, that is an actual solution which can reduce prices. If there's more supply and the same demand, then prices can come down. The solution that no politician will ever talk about is that we need the bubble to pop. That's all there is to it. And no bailout. And we have to stop government incentives that actually drive the price of houses higher. The only way housing will become affordable again is if it actually gets cheaper nominally in dollar value. And no politician wants that to happen because homeowners are influential in elections and they're the ones who donate. And people who own stocks are the ones that donate to presidential and congressional campaigns. And they lobby for tax breaks, like on interest on housing loans, which you can write off, which people lobbied very hard for, but actually raise the price of housing. Every government policy, including 30-year mortgages, including Fannie and Freddie Mae, drive up the price of housing, which is what the government has incentivized. I say Republicans are turning socialist. Well, it's not a free market. We back loans so that banks can't lose money. If the government immediately withdrew from backing housing loans and college loans, the price would have to drastically reduce. If you made banks liable or schools liable for student loans, then they would have to reduce their prices. The only way people can afford houses is through borrowing, taking on more debt. The problem with that is that sometimes prices go down. So Trump wants lower interest rates. He wants 50-year mortgages. That's great. It's not great, but lower interest rates would bring down your monthly payment. But if the price ever goes down 10%, 20%, you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. and you just have to walk away from your house like they did during the housing crisis. And that's the only way homes are going to get cheaper and more affordable, is if the price comes down. But when that happens, banks will lose a lot of money because people will walk away. But they got bailed out by Obama in 2008. The people didn't get bailed out. They had to have it on their credit, foreclosure. You need things to actually crash for things to get cheaper, and no politician wants things to crash. The stock market, the housing market. So government policies prop up the stock market and the housing market. And we bail out corporations and we bail out banks. And until we stop doing that, then nothing will be affordable. And no politician wants that on their plate. So, I mean, that's it. They're not going to propose real solutions. That's all I can say. And property tax is charged on the value of the home, which keeps going up. You can build more houses. Yes, thank you for that. While wages catch up. You can deport illegals. Yes. And that has two effects. Employers have to pay more for labor. So that's the other side of it. We actually have to make more money. That's the other possibility. But the only way for us to make more money is to get rid of all these foreigners who don't expect the standard of living that most Native Americans expect. Legal and illegal. Republicans have always supported illegal immigration. The Koch brothers, business owners, Elon Musk, they all want cheap labor. Republicans have never really done, until Donald Trump, nobody did anything about illegal immigration because we need them to pick strawberries and do yard work and construction. That construction site's empty. I'm not saying they're going to be replaced by Native American people right away. They'd have to pay more. So we need higher wages and we need an actual functioning free market economy. But the solutions they're talking about are not free market. And that's what's popular. Socialism or government intervention, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. They just want government intervention. Or in the case of Donald Trump, he just wants interest rates to go down. Well, that just makes inflation higher. Having lower interest rates just makes the price go up. And people take on debt. So Tim Buck says those fruit picker jobs pay great. Well, they don't now. But if we got rid of illegal immigrants, they would have to. That's the difference. Yeah, they don't pay great now. It's because it's all illegal immigrants. We rely on them. But we'll see if anybody wants to fix the problems. But you're going to see that people want the government to help. That's why young people are all socialists. They want price fixing, all things that don't work. I'm not saying some things shouldn't be socialized, like health insurance. I don't think health insurance is one of those things where we should just leave people on their own because everybody else is paying for their health care anyway when they go to the emergency room and they can't turn them away. When you kick people off health insurance or you make it too expensive, then everybody else is just paying for the people who aren't insured. So I'm not totally like 100% free market everything, private everything myself, but Laura Floyd says, get people working and off the welfare paycheck. Well, good luck with that when everybody loses their job to AI. Elon Musk, I mean, what's he? What is Elon Musk? Is he even a capitalist? He wants universal basic income, just like a lot of the guys talking about AI. It's a great idea to get people working, but what if there's no job? We're about to have like we have more layoffs this year than, I'll show you some other economic figures actually. Just some updates as to the state of things. 71% of U.S. consumers expect unemployment to rise over the next 12 months, the highest level of job market pessimism since the 1980s. The delinquency rate for office commercial mortgage-backed securities hit a record 11.8% in October, 1 full percentage point above the post-2008 financial crisis peak of 10.7%. Over 12% of credit card balances are now 90 days delinquent, 90 plus days delinquent, the highest in 14 years, with interest rates above 21%. Leverage on the stock market is at a record high. DC Drano says, we need a big, beautiful bill type of legislative agenda to lower housing, vehicle, and food costs for middle-class Americans in 2026. Major free market reforms need to be implemented, not just tax cuts. Historic changes that take monopolistic power away from BlackRock and other Wall Street machines and gives it back to American taxpayers. Well, BlackRock has to be wiped out. That's all. When housing prices go down, BlackRock will be forced to liquidate. And as long as we don't bail them out, that's capitalism. Rent is what it is because people can pay it. Somehow. You can fix the price, but that's not a solution. That's what Mamdani wants to do. Housing prices are what they are because people buy them still. But things change. We go through recessions. And if things are allowed to fail, then that cleans things up. We're not going to let things fail. We're going to fuck up again, which is why you need gold, probably. At least at first, we're not going to let things fail. We're going to print an epic amount of money. So Bitcoin's probably still going to be good eventually, and gold. You have to own something that can absorb the massive money printing, which is going to happen when shit hits the fan. Japan just printed the equivalent of $1 trillion in their currency to try to reduce inflation, they say. It's a sad state of affairs, to be honest, in the world. Here's another quote. The AI industry needs to make $650 billion in annual revenue to deliver a 10% return on investments that companies are expected to make through 2030. Sam Altman already thinks OpenAI might fail because of their investment commitments. And he thinks they're going to be bailed out by the government, which at least AOC is talking about not doing. So here's another, somebody that tried to go on their own. Here's a story.
I'm Gen X, and I realized a long time ago that there was going to be no retirement for me. So what I did was sold all the things that I had, cashed in my retirement, and purchased some land out here in Tennessee to live on. And now what I have to do is pay for permission to live on this land, buy permits, and I also have to pay taxes every year, whatever amount they decide, forever in this land of the free. You can never escape the system that they've built for us. There's no end to it. It goes on forever until you die. This system where we're constantly paying a tithe to the government in hopes that they will do the right thing at some point, ever.
So that's the story about how you don't ever own anything in America still. You don't own your property in America, which is kind of why I like Bitcoin and gold. At least you're allowed to own those without having to pay tax on your property every single year, like you do with real estate. Real estate, the value keeps going up. They say it is whatever it is, and they charge you a percentage. And if you don't pay it, the government steals your property, even though you paid for it in full. At least in Florida, they're talking about getting rid of that. DeSantis is talking about getting rid of it, but so that's another sad story. Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It was a good show. It's kind of a small show, but maybe we'll find some clips from it. Hope everybody's doing well, has good plans for Friday and the weekend. I might see you tomorrow. Sometimes we will do the show 6 days a week. So depending on the news, we might see you tomorrow. And we wish you guys the best. Horizontally or vertically. For now, that's what it is.